All right, welcome everyone. My name is Bastian Stulbacka, and I'm going to talk about reducing the operational costs and environmental impact on with recycling of liners. And that's a lot to ask, but I'm trying to prove that in the next couple of slides that it's really possible. I'm also going to talk more about this particular piece of equipment here, and that's actually a liner, and it's not a normal liner, but it's a recycled liner. So that is really something new on the market in the comminution area. But before I actually go into the actual subject, I'm going to highlight a few things about Outotec first. And Outotec is mainly known as a technology company, but since 2008, 2010, we have really been trying to focus on the services as well and get closer to the customers, really to understand the customer challenges and help them with the daily operations. And some numbers to prove that. So in 2010, we had roughly 800 services people on board, 40 agreements, and a services sales revenue of 283 millions. And if you look at the same figures today, we have almost tripled the number of services experts we have on board. We have more than triple amount of agreements in place, and also the revenue is much bigger. And if you look at those small spots as well, you can see that our global presence is much more global today compared to earlier. So we're really closer to the customers as well. And when we talk about the services approach, it's really about first being close to the customer, understanding the challenges they have, and then depending on the demand and needs, try to help with cutting costs, like much of the business is today, or then improving with the productivity issues that they have. But then actually to the real subject of today, and to put everybody on the same ballpark. So we are talking about the concentrator plant area and on the comminution and the mills portion of that. So this particular service is what I'm going to talk about is related to grinding mills. And yet again, to put everybody on the same page, the mills, they are really there to break the rocks into smaller pieces, and the liners, they are really the wear item inside that is trying to protect the actual shelf of the mill. And traditionally, you can have rubber, polymetal, or steel liners in the mill. But now, Outotec has come with a patented solution to actually recycle the rubber and polymer liners. That means that you can recoat with polyurethane the liners 3 or 4 times, which really means that, well, first of all, it's good for the environment because the rubber part is hazardous waste. But secondly, you can actually reduce the costs a lot. And on top of that, you can also increase the productivity, because once you recoat the liner, you can actually redesign the shape as well. And you will see later on that the shape actually has a large impact on the productivity of the mill itself as well. So to get away from hazardous waste into actually something that creates value for you. And it's been a long journey. It's really nothing that we have invented yesterday and now we come out on the market. No, we started in 2012, and we've done a lot of testing with numerous polyurethane mixtures, tested additives which really would bring the wear rates into desired level. We tested in different temperatures, different applications from the customer perspective, and also tested a lot to really get this polyurethane to stick on the rubber. So today, if you do some tensile strength tests, it's not breaking from the, let's say, boundary between the polyurethane and the rubber. It's actually the rubber part that is the less durable component there. And as said, today we can go up to 160 degrees of temperature, so nearly any concentrator plant application we can actually apply this on the rubber and polymer liners. So this piece of liner can be sold as such, but actually we think that there is more value if combine this with something that we call liner management services. And in liner management services, we actually do the design of liners. We can supply the liners as well. We're not the liner manufacturer, but we have certain partners that we can use. Or if the customer so decides, we can We can use the liner manufacturer that the customer prefers and then recoat later on. We can do the installation and commissioning of the liners and also do all the relines in between the liner changes. And if you combine all this together, we call it liner management services. And this is nothing we price on a cost plus basis. No, this is really made easy and attractive to the customers by a cost per ton uh, pricing basis, really meaning that if we're not achieving the targets on the productivity for the customer is not paying for it. But if the productivity goes up, obviously the cost is then also in line with that. And really to highlight and emphasize that it's not only a wear item when we talk about liners. As I said before, with the liner design, the shape, you can really impact a lot the productivity and the energy efficiency of the mill as well. So if you really think of the cost structure of a mill in operation, roughly 10% of the cost comes from liners and 40% from the energy efficiency. So you can really understand that if you try to optimize the price and the cost of the liner, you're not going to succeed in the cost efficiency. But what you actually should do is concentrate on the productivity and really how to get most out of the liner and so the mill in itself. I spoke earlier about the pricing model that we try to implement for this, and it's really going away from this cost per kilo on the liner, which is the normal traditional way of the purchasing manager to go forward. Now, what we are really looking at is liner cost per produced ton of ore. So trying to optimize the amount, the tonnage of liner you set in, also optimize how much tonnage you can actually put through the mill with the one set of liners. And if you multiply these together, then you really get the liner cost per ton of produced ore. And this is what really matters for the customer in the end of the day. So how do we do it? And there's actually three ways to do it. Firstly, you can go and reduce the operational cost to maximize liner life. So let's see if I manage to. Here you can see the liner thickness. So as you wear out the liner, the thickness decreases. And most of our customers, they tend to change the liners before the liner has really worn out. As a matter of fact, most of our customers in average, they change the liners when 35% of the liner has only gone. So they have 65% of the mass still in place when they change for the next liner set. So you can really extend the duration between the liner changes and so get more availability and also so more productivity. Second way of increasing and improving the operations is actually decreasing the reline time. I'm going to talk more about that also in a minute. And the third way to actually optimize the operations is to maximize the mill throughput. So you can see that as the liner goes thinner, there's an optimum part where the mill is actually producing the most tonnage through its lifetime. So starting with the first example here, really. So if you extend, for example, here by 2 months the liner change time, this is the actual more productivity what you get here, the red part, because the mill is operating at its optimal area, and you also decrease the downtime because of the mill changes or the liner changes. And we have one customer case in Chile, actually, one of the biggest copper producers there, and we were increasing their liner lifetime by 20%. And if you convert that into money, they actually reduced the cost of liners by $1.5 million on annual basis, and they increased the throughput so much, so they got $4 million in revenue increase. So really, with small changes, you can have a major impact on the asset and its productivity. Then to the second alternative, so reducing the downtime and really optimizing the reline time. Sorry, like that. So here you can see that if the mill is, normally you talk about availability is above 90% for a mill, but out of that unavailability 10%, most of that comes from the relines. So if you try to shorten the reline, that is in most cases where the mill is on the critical part, meaning that it's the bottleneck of the process, you can increase the productivity as you decrease the availability. So if you concentrate on this area here to reduce that time, you convert that into productivity. And also here we have an example of a Australian mine. They had 7 mills, and we actually reduced this. They had 5%, if I remember correctly, their downtime cost on the relines. We reduced that to 3%, and if you convert again that into money, they actually saved 7 million, or actually increased the revenue by 7 million Aussie dollars on annual basis. So yet again, one single plant, small improvements, but big impact on the revenue there. Last but not least, increasing the productivity. So as I said, normally as the liners wear out, they're actually producing more tonnage through the mill. So if you utilize this area, you can actually increase the mill tonnage. So what can be really done is to redesign the liners to always operate in this optimum area. And that is something that is really suitable for this reline concept, because by doing condition monitoring throughout the liner lifetime, you really get to know in what area you get the most productivity. And once you recoat, you're trying to operate and recoat so you get that shape in the optimal area. So in this concept, I'm using a textbook example here. Customer operating with 12.6 million tons per year and doing relines twice on annual basis. Instead of using 2 relines per annum, they actually decreased it to 3 months interval, meaning that they had 4 relines on annual basis. One would first think that they actually reduced the production and the capacity, but because they were only operating in the optimal area, they managed to increase the production by 11%. And also here we have an example where we have been helping the customer to really operate in the optimal area by redesigning the liners and also rescheduling the liner change intervals. And in this case, we actually achieved 5 million EBIT impact. So here we are really talking about the major impact on the profitability of the end customer. So, to summarize, with the liner management services, you can really impact not only on the cost but also on the productivity. And now with the new refurbishment concept that we have for the liners, you can really do it in a sustainable and environmental friendly way. Thank you, and if you have some questions, please go forward. Actually, that's a good question, because this is the launch of it externally. So we have piloted with 3 Finnish customers, and now we're secure enough to go out on the market. And we only go out now in northern part of Finland and Sweden, and this is because we have the workshop that is doing this relining here in northern part of Finland, so the transportation cost doesn't become. So 3 customers have it in use already, and we're targeting to pilot even more now. All right, thanks for your attention.